Imperialism, a policy or practice by which a country increases its power by gaining control over other areas of the world. One of the most notable occurrences of imperialism was the Scramble for Africa, which occurred during the late 1800s among Europeans. During this time they held the Berlin Conference because Africa had lots of great resources that they wanted, including gold, silver, and oil, among others. The problem with this is that the Africans didn't know who these people were, and the Europeans didn't care about who these people were. All the Europeans cared about was how much land they were able to get and how much resources they had, and that really caused a lot of problems. One of the most notable being King Leopold II of Belgium, who in 1890 ruled a part of Belgian Congo. When the price of rubber was raised, he forced many Congolese people as slave laborers to haul in much ivory. As a result, under his rule, an average of 15 million Congolese people died, and in 1908 the Belgian government forced him to let go of the colony. One thing that heavily affected the whole continent of Africa was the culture of its people. For thousands of years the culture of the African people was fresh, but by the time the European imperialism rule ended, the culture had been lost among many, and it had been forgotten. Imperialism was also big in Asia, but not just among the Europeans, but also with the Japanese and Americans. Japan had rule over Korea, and the US had rule over the Philippine Islands. But maybe the most famous of imperialism rule to the world was India, who in 1858 the British crowned themselves ruler of the land. But Britain's imperialism rule probably would not have been as well remembered today if it wasn't for one man's quest for independence, Mahatma Gandhi. With peaceful protests and non-violent civil disobedience, among being imprisoned many times and almost being assassinated 4 times, he was able to become one of the most influential people in the world. And in 1947, after 32 long and hard years fighting for freedom, India finally became a free country. In 1948, Mahatma Gandhi was shot and killed by Hindu nationalists. While his death came abrupt, he still lives on as one of the most influential people to ever live. His nonviolent and peaceful ways still today impact many people, and even influenced the great Martin Luther King Jr. during the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s. Imperialism really affected the lives of many people living in Africa and Asia. For one, the land that they had been known as independent for so long has now been taken over by a bunch of Europeans just wanting to get resources in that country. But also resulted in the deaths of many people, ranging from extreme slave labor to diseases the Europeans had brought in. So while imperialism isn't as relevant today, it still leaves a big mark in our world history. Thankfully, Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela, 2 important and influential figures, have been able to step up and stop imperialism, and they have influenced the world since. Thankfully, imperialism today has been contained, and hopefully it will stay that way. Thanks for watching.